Yeah, let's discuss with the Director of Government Affairs and Global Strategies for NestPoint, Tim Phillips. Also helping us is economic strategist Francis Stacey. Great to see you both this morning. Tim, I'll start with you. What's your initial take on the High Court's ruling here? Is this a big hit to the administration, or is this nothing more than a simple pivot to embargoes and a 10% global tariff?
It's a setback, no question about that, but they've already moved very quickly to remedy the situation. Besson and the president announced they were using Section 122 of the Free Trade or the Fair Trade Act to replace what has been lost with IEEPA that the court struck down. So they moved quickly. The markets, basically the financial markets, shrugged off the decision, if you noticed yesterday and early this morning with some of the coverage of that. So they're in good shape on the financial markets. They're working this thing out, and I think they're relatively confident of a fix. I think the messiest part is something Justice Kavanaugh pointed out in the dissent when he said the refund situation will be a mess and it will take years in the lower courts. That one's just going to take a long time, but that's really not the administration's problem. It's more the difficulty of those countries and companies.
Francis, let's ask that. The $133 billion question. What happens with the money collected from the tariffs, and how can it impact the economy if the White House is all of a sudden in a position where they got to give it back?
Yeah, great question. So the Supreme Court did not rule on what to do about these refunds. The problem is that if we kind of have a wider lens here, Trump is trying to keep us competitive in the global markets. We have 30 trillion, which is 26% of global GDP. China has 19 trillion, which is 17%. So he's trying to raise GDP. He's also simultaneously listening to alarm bells from people like Ray Dalio that say, if you don't get your government spending down to 3% of GDP, the deficit spending down to 3% of GDP, you're going to have a debt crisis. So what does he do? He goes and implements huge global tariffs. He's going to do the balance of trade issue, which is both in the expenditure and the income calculation of GDP, and try to gain GDP from other places. You're also providing a lot of liquidity for the Treasury General account. So what happens if they have to send these refunds? They're going to replace these tariffs, as has been mentioned, but it just gets very messy with the line items and how it potentially affects GDP and also company balance sheets. And so that's what the markets were desperately trying to price in yesterday.
And Tim, as you know, the president does have a backup plan. He'll impose that 10% tariff using a different law, which can be used for 150 days. Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent is on board for it. Here's what he had to say.
Let's be clear about what today's ruling was and what it wasn't. 6 justices simply ruled that IEEPA authorities cannot be used to raise even $1 of revenue. This administration will invoke alternative legal authorities to replace the IEEPA tariffs.
All right. So is this the right approach?
Thankfully, for the administration, the court kept in place sections 232 and 301 of the Fair Trade Act from 1974. So they kept those in place. They have the new section 122. It is going to be more difficult for the administration. There's no question about that. It's probably doable, but it is going to be more difficult. You have the 150-day deadline, which the new tariffs will be in effect only for another 150 days. So they are going to have to juggle some things, and this does make things more challenging for the administration. I think they're capable of pulling it off and doing it. They've got Scott Bessent, who I think is the best Treasury Secretary in my lifetime. So I think they can pull it off, but it does complicate things. I do think it was important yesterday when the markets shrugged this off. That let's not overlook that it would have been very tough and a lot of pressure on the administration if the markets had dived, and that did not happen. That's a big thing.
Tim Phillips, Francis Stacey, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, guys.